Now, at the same time, the average rail worker, particularly the train drivers, are paid substantially more than average salaries. So it tends to be the worst off in society who lose out as a result of these unions. Now, I don't think we're likely to see a general strike, and that's because the union movement doesn't like to say this very much, but they're actually losing a lot of public support. Only about 12 or 13% of private sector workers are members of unions. It's obviously much higher in the public sector, but overall, it doesn't seem particularly likely to me that we're going to get mass striking. What we're going to have is a certain segment of people trying to make a claim for higher wages while trying to hurt everyone else in the process.
Well, now, Steve, I can see you laughing. I don't think you're very impressed by what Matt there is saying at all. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm more impressed by his haircut than what he actually has to say. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're in a situation where we are being held to ransom by the energy companies. I mean, maybe we should go out and clap for the energy companies instead of paying them, instead of paying their bills. Maybe there should be a huge campaign of non-payment. That's what you did for the nurses. I mean, all these people that you're now saying is holding the country to ransom, you were out clapping like seals for them on a Thursday night not so long ago. And now suddenly they're all greedy because they want to pay their energy bills and they want to have a standard of living which keep pace with inflation. And I'm going to argue on some specific misinformed elements from Matthew, and they were that the railway workers are on 60-odd grand a year. Now, that drivers are on that, but most drivers in the ASLEF union, and like everybody else, they should keep pace with inflation. Most people in our industry are on or around £25,000, £26,000 a year. That's the caterers, that's the people who work on platforms, that's the people that basically are on the living wage or very close to the living wage, who are working 60 or 72 hours a week just to make ends meet. And some of them have to actually claim benefits and go to the food bank. So this myth that railway workers are overpaid is just nonsense. And why should people, and we're not arguing that railway workers, by the way, should have any advantage on other workers. And that's why personally, and this is not the RMT's position, but personally I think we do need a general strike. We need a general strike so every worker in this country plays a part in redistributing wealth, where the elite percentage of people, very small percentage in elite, is getting richer and richer every year, having more and more of the GDP of this country. And the vast majority of people are getting poorer and poorer.
Matt, let's go to you on that, because he's right, isn't he? We are in exceptional times. 18% inflation forecast, energy bills through the roof. COVID lockdown. During lockdown, more billionaires were produced in the country. So isn't he right, essentially, that exceptional times require exceptional measures?
Look, the sad truth at the moment, as I was saying earlier, is that there is less to go around. Now, if these union workers make demands, particularly on the railways, for big pay increases, despite the fact that passenger numbers are down, that means everyone else is going to have to pay through higher taxes, through more burdens on the public debt. So that's not going to solve the underlying issue here, which is our need to grow the economy and boost broader prosperity. What I'd like to see from the unions is actually a lot more discussion about productivity. We saw a few years ago Southern workers on the railway protesting and striking at the idea that they might be using modern trains that don't require conductors, which is something that's not necessary in the latest generation of trains. It's those kind of productivity improvements then can justify higher pay and make us more prosperous in the long run. Just saying, oh, I want more money for me, doesn't understand the broader cost for everyone else of making that large claim. And the truth is that most people aren't going to get real terms pay increases at the moment, just because we are poorer as a result of higher prices.
Now, Steve is listening very closely to everything you have to say, Matt. At one point was saying that is not true. Steve, explain.
Well, look, we're not against new technology whatsoever, but new technology should be used to shorten the working week and actually increase the productivity in that way. We don't want new technology just to be used as job cuts. But the reality is there's plenty of money in this country. There's plenty of money in this country. But that money has been taken up by a small elite. You have the the distribution of wealth in this country is being siphoned off by a few people at the top, and most people are suffering because of that. Now, that's what we need to change. This nonsense that you come out with about productivity, if we all work harder, we're going to get 18% next year. Because that's what the Bank of England is forecasting inflation is going to be at. Railway workers have had a 2-year pay freeze, as had a lot of workers in the public sector. That means with inflation running the way it is, and inflation is not being driven by wages, it's being driven by profiteering, it's being driven by gas and energy prices, it's being driven by the war in Ukraine and the supply line crisis during COVID. That's what's driving inflation. Public sector wages have been depressed for 10 years, a decade or more. So it's absolute nonsense that you're coming out with. And by the way, I think you've been taking, lessons from Grant Snaps. You just come on and make things up, don't you? You come up and make things up. The dispute on Southern wasn't about new technology. It was about the role of the guard, the safety role of the guard on the train. And I really think if you're going to come on these programmes, you really need to do your homework and better research and not just come on and wing it.
No, I'm sorry. No. This is just ridiculous. They're just insulting me. First you come here and you insult my hair. Then you say I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's be absolutely reasonable here. There's the claims that, I mean, Rich talking about my hair, but whatever. Anyway, the truth of it is that you're making things up in terms of profiteering. There is no this whole narrative around, companies have suddenly become profiteering in 2022 when previously they didn't want to make profits. The truth is underlying costs have gone up. Now, that means that there is less to go around. You can't just magically make more money. And if you do try to do that, as the Bank of England found, everyone is going to be poorer as a result because it'll just be more inflationary. And that's actually the underlying risk as well. If you push up wages, you say, I'll take an 18% pay rise, that means that everyone's going to have, in the short run, appear to have more money, but that risks in baking in higher inflationary expectations and everyone being much poorer in the longer run. So just demanding pay rises for the sake of it isn't going to help anyone in the long run, and is going to be extremely expensive.